Hello, ladies. Welcome to Women and Blended Families. This is our September conversation. I'm Gayla Grace, and I serve on the FamilyLife Blended team where we minister to blended families. Today, the focus of our conversation is all about grandparenting and step-grandparenting in blended families. My guest, Vicki Maday, understands this subject well. She has 17 grandchildren in her blended family, and I'm so excited to talk with her. Now, before we get started, I always love to know who is with me live. If you would put your name and where you're from in the comments, it's fun to see ladies who join us live. And then I do have a question for you, those of you that are out there. I would love to know, if you have grandchildren, do you celebrate National Grandparent Day? You know, National Grandparent Day was just this last Sunday. And I love to hear comments about, if you celebrate, what do you do? I'm actually kind of a newer grandma, and I'm trying to understand a little bit about this role and how you celebrate it. And I see ladies joining me already, coming in from Arkansas, Florida, Texas, Oregon, Northeast Tennessee. Lots of women who are already on here, and we are so thrilled to have you join us live. And also, as we wait for ladies to come on, be sure to tag a friend who you know would benefit from our conversation. Even if they can't join us now, they can always watch the recorded version later. And remember, we love to see your questions come in related to the topic today. We'll answer them as many as we can, or we'll get to them in the comments. Now, let me introduce our guest, Vicki Maday. You're going to love Vicki. She married her husband, Bob, 17 years ago. She and Bob had both had spouses who passed away. And when Vicki stepped into her new family, she has 2 daughters of her own, but also she stepped into 3 stepchildren and now 17 grandchildren. And she says the real magic happens in our relationships with the 17 grandkids. I can't wait to hear more about that, Vicki. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Hello, Gayla. I'm delighted to be joining you today and
Well,
excited about our topic.
yes, it is near and dear to your heart. I know it is. And I would like to start just by hearing a little bit more about your story, because now when you married, you were not a grandmother yet, and
Right.
Bob had several grandkids, right? So tell me about that.
Well, I was widowed at 44, so I was quite young when I was
Oh,
widowed, and then met Bob. And when I met Bob, he already had 7 grandchildren, but my daughter was pregnant, 6 months pregnant when we married.
okay.
And so I just married into the whole group.
Right. And were you concerned about it at all? Like, were you overwhelmed about stepping into this family that had all these grandkids already?
You know, Bob and I were so in love at the time. And at the time, we didn't know about the Smart Step Family book.
Right. Okay.
So when we married, we thought everything was going to be a Brady Bunch kind of marriage.
Right.
So I didn't really have concerns there at all when it came to the blending of our families.
And then were you surprised? Now, you and Bob didn't necessarily date that long, right? You married kind of quickly into the family?
We did marry quickly. We married quickly. And we've talked about it, and we look back and we say, we would have done it all the same way if we had it to do it again.
Oh,
The challenges that we faced, we feel like we would have faced whether we were married or dating.
okay.
And,
Mm-hmm.
they say the honeymoon comes at the end of the journey.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Part of that honeymoon journey is the grandparenting season.
Yes. Okay, well, let's talk first about your daughter was pregnant. And so her first child was not your first grandbaby because you were already married to Bob. Was that hard for her?
Bob's daughter, Katie, reached out to Stacy,
Oh.
just real precious. And she said, when Dad marries your mom, I want to go ahead and introduce them to her grandparent name. And she doesn't have one. So would you go ahead and pick our grandparent name so we can start using it?
Oh,
And said, we need to come up with a grandparent name. And that's how the name Gigi was born. And so as soon as we started getting together as a family, Katie immediately started using the reference of Gigi for me. But meanwhile, our network, our close, well-meaning friends were saying to Stacy things like, they were saying, do you feel betrayed that you're not giving your mom her first grandbaby?
oh goodness.
Does that
Mm.
make you bitter? Do you have hard feelings because you're not able to give her her first grandbaby? She's already got like 7. And Stacy called me and said, I think I'm supposed to be jealous. And I think I'm supposed to be upset that I'm not giving you your first grandbaby. And she said, but I can't think of any grandmother who's more suited
Oh.
to make every single grandchild feel like they're the first.
Mm-hmm.
And it just warmed my heart when
Wow.
and she gave me number 8. Brody fell in at number 8, but she said everyone feels like they're the first.
Oh,
So
so obviously you have a way of letting these grandkids know how special they are and developing relationships, which is what I want to talk about, is developing these relationships. But first I want to say, what a blessing for your daughter, for Bob's daughter to reach out to her and say, come up with a grandma name for your mom. I mean, that is
yeah,
huge. That's such a sweet way to help both of you as you join this family. And wow, that's,
yes,
yeah, that is
it
huge.
was a lot of maturity,
Mm,
a lot of maturity on both of their parts.
yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the relationship with his kids first. So 3 stepchildren. How old were they when y'all married? Do you remember roughly?
All of our kids, yeah, all of our kids were married and out of the home. All
Okay.
of them when we met and married.
Okay.
And then they
And
had children of their own.
right. And then were they okay with you just stepping in immediately with their kids, or did anybody show some resistance to that?
Some of the parents were struggling a bit. So I didn't get as much access to some of the grandchildren. But Gayla, surprisingly, I mean, from the day we married, their arms were just open to me being the grandmother. Um, it was just so easy to walk into that role. And let's face it, babysitting is free when it's the grandmother. and and so they really just opened their arms to that. We didn't have any conflicts when it came to being the grandmother to any of them.
Wow.
It
Wow.
just,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I love that. And I'm curious now, my question that I asked about celebrating National Grandparent Day, do you celebrate that? Do you and Bob celebrate that? Or have you ever?
We don't celebrate it. We kind of let the kids lead in that.
Yes. And
So we go to the
mhm.
grandparent breakfast and we let the grandchildren lead in celebrating us as grandparents.
Yeah, and I like that. I think that is a helpful way to do that, and I've seen some others kind of saying the same thing, and I do think a lot of times that schools offer opportunities for grandparents to come to the
Mm-hmm.
school and be honored, and I think those are important things for grandparents to do. Now, but let me ask you, so in your situation, there wasn't a lot of strife. It sounds like you were able to just step in, but what if we have somebody viewing who is asking, but my child is a little more resistant. They aren't embracing this new step grandparent. Let's just talk about how you would encourage somebody in a situation like that, when they're not getting open arms being offered to them as they step into a step grandparent role.
Boy, that's a hard one because I just have no experience there at all. So when I think about how I would manage that, it would be, I just think through making contact with the grandchildren. Like I send love notes to them, love poems to them, love puzzles to them. One, I'll do like Jesus loves Millie, Gigi loves, and then no matter how you put the puzzle together, it says Jesus loves Millie, Millie loves Jesus, Gigi loves Jesus, Jesus loves Gigi. So it's just 5 words, but no matter how she puts it, it's talking about love. I did a lot of that early on, sending what I called love letters to the grandkids.
And did you send these through the mail? How did you do it?
Through the mail. Through the mail. One of
What?
Bob's kids actually called and said, "What is she doing? We live right down the street and Bryce is getting mail all the time. What's going on?" And I said, "It's love notes. I'm sending love notes so he can go to the mailbox and get mail from Gigi." And that's been real special that they love to get. They
And
love
then
getting mail.
did you sign it Love Gigi? Is that how you would sign the notes?
Oh, absolutely. Everything is love Gigi.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what I hear you saying is you got creative. You used something that you were comfortable with in kind of creating these puzzles or creating love notes, and you sent those. That's a great suggestion, Vicki, about how a grandmother can use what is special to her or ways that she enjoys relating to others and use that in relating to the grandkids. I mean, that's exactly what you did with your step grandkids.
Right.
And
Right.
and it sounds like it worked. I mean, it sounds like even though maybe the parents were a little caught off guard in regards to what in the world is Gigi doing,
Right.
it sounds like the grandkids really enjoyed that, which is what your goal was.
Right. When I did have access to them, when they were over at the house,
Hmm.
I did try to focus on games and time with them, not just with the adults, but I would pull myself aside from the adult conversations and just drop down in the floor and
Okay.
say, "Let's put a puzzle together. Let's have some fun together. Let's sing a song together."
Mm.
Things like that, because we were kind of introducing ourselves to each other, getting used to each other.
Right. And I think it's important to realize that as we relate to our grandchildren, we're also forming relationship with our stepchild. As they see us connect with their kids, then that is also going to bond us to them. Did you see that happen?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I had a pastor say from the pulpit one time, "The best way you can love me as your pastor is to love my children." And
Mhm.
that, isn't that the same with all of us? If
Yes, yes, it is.
love my children well, love my child well, and you're loving me well.
Right. Okay, so let's take a question that I've had come in. Does Vicky find that she favors her biological grandkids? My parents tend to favor their biological kids. How do I tell them that this is hurtful? Do you notice that? So obviously you now have biological grandchildren and you have step grandchildren. Do you ever find that it feels like, oh, it would be easier to have some favoritism here, or how do you prevent that?
Again, I just don't. I love them all. They're all my grandchildren, and it's
Yeah.
always felt that way. We have 2 adopted grandchildren, one from each side.
Okay.
And and that would be like saying, am I going to treat the 2 boys different from their adopted sister?
Oh, yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that would be like asking a parent, if you adopt a child and then you have a natural child, are you going to treat the adopted child differently? And so we just have loved the adopted children and the grandchildren, the adopted grandchildren, the same. I would say that's a heart issue for the grandparent if
Right.
that's happening.
Right. And I also, what I hear you saying is if we can look at that from the child's perspective. So the question of, how do I let them know this is hurtful? I think that we could go back to the parents and explain these kids understand what's going on. They are
Right.
recognizing that you are showing favoritism towards one child over another. And that is a very hurtful dynamic. So that's one way that I would answer that question is help them see it through the child's eyes. And kids in blended families have enough going on like it is in
They
navigating their
sure do.
feelings. Yeah, we don't want to add to that. But it sounds like for you, you just really never even considered that. You just always looked at them as these are our grandchildren. You don't differentiate between, oh, these are my step and these are my biological. You just don't even look at it that way, right?
I don't. Prior to the broadcast, I actually told Bob, I said, if I'm supposed to share issues or challenges that we've had, we just haven't had any.
Yeah.
It has just been magical when it comes to that relationship with the grandchildren.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
and would you say that the love between you and the grandkids and them and you, would you say it happened quickly or would you say it evolved over time or it was different with different kids? What would you say to that?
It was different with different kids. As I said, there were some parents who were struggling, so I didn't have access to some as much as quickly and as early as I did others.
Okay.
But they've only known me as their grandmother. The oldest was 3 years old when they lost their grandmother. So they've only known me. And I am Gigi as much as the other grandmother.
Okay.
I am, you have a mother and a mother-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
and I am Gigi as much as Nona, Nana. That's all they've known. That's all they've
Okay.
known. It's just been easy. It's
Right.
just been easy.
Well, and let's talk about that a minute because I know there is a situation where one of them, you were looking at pictures together, and one of them saw your husband Bob with his first wife before she passed and
Yes.
didn't really understand that situation, and you helped explain that. I think this is valuable, Vicki, for people to understand that it's okay for us to talk about what happened before you stepped into the picture. So explain to us a little bit about that story and how you handled that situation when your step grandchild was confused about, well, who is this person with Bob?
So they have little albums, each one of them on the day they were born, and where friends and family came to the hospital to greet them into the world. And
Okay.
we played this game where we would sit with the little albums and say, we'd open it up and she'd go, there I am in mommy's tummy. And
Mhm.
there's daddy, mommy, and me born. And so as we would flip the page, Camden would identify who was in the picture. And then she got to the one picture where it was her big daddy, that's Bob, but his arm was around someone else and they were cuddling her. And that was her other grandmother, the grandmother who passed, Mimi. And
Right.
there she was. And she hesitated and she said, and I said, and who is that? And she said, that's Big Daddy's friend. Well, where are you, Gigi? And
Oh.
and where's Big Daddy's friend now? And so we just cuddled into the sofa and I began to tell her about her grandmother and
Mhm.
how she and Big Daddy were married and that she loved Camden very much. But then she got cancer and
Mhm.
went to be and live in heaven with Jesus. But then Big Daddy was very sad and lonely. And so Jesus sent me and we married. And now I am her grandmother. And now she has a Gigi. And then
Oh.
we would just, and I said, and now I get the chance to love you very much.
Mhm.
And so mainly just not being afraid
Mhm.
to talk to them and answer the questions they have.
Mhm.
Because the one thing that they need is lots of love from lots of different people.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and so I just explained that, early on, I remember the story that I felt like was kind of my commission was, and I'll cry through this one
Oh.
too, but during the final days of her life, Katie had asked, "What do we tell the children about you?" And she said, "Don't tell them about me. Tell them about Jesus."
Oh, yes.
And when I was sitting with the family and heard that story, it just melted my heart. And I
Mhm.
said, and I just kind of whispered and said, "I'll take it from here. I've got it." So I took the torch and said, "I'll tell them about Jesus. How can
Mhm.
I mess that up?"
Mhm. Mhm.
We look at ourselves as grandmothers and we say it could be easy to mess it up. Not if you're focused on telling them about Jesus
Yeah.
and the way you
Mhm.
love them, in the way you
Mhm.
care for them, play with them, interact with them. And it's a win-win. So that's I just kind of commissioned myself to be the grandmother who picked up the torch from
Mhm.
Bev and just continued to show them the way to Jesus.
Right. And what a beautiful passing of the torch for
Yes.
for her to express that, and then for you to be able to say, "Oh, absolutely." I mean, what a
Mhm.
legacy to pick up and be able to pass that on. But just what you're saying, Vicki, is don't shy away from questions. It's not unusual that there could be some questions our grandkids are having that we can help with, and we can show that we're not threatened by people that were in relationship prior before we came into this place. All of that helps them understand that, oh, okay, it's okay for me to love Gigi, but it's also okay that Bob had another person in his life before you came along. And
Absolutely.
mhm,
Yes.
yeah, that sounds like exactly what you did. Okay, I have another question that's come in that says, my son's wife keeps me at a distance. How can I build a relationship with her? My son's wife. So this would be a daughter-in-law,
Okay.
keeps me at a distance. And this is likely a grandmother then who's asking, how do I build a relationship with my daughter-in-law who's keeping me at a distance? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, again, you have to let her set the pace,
Yes.
the daughter-in-law,
Mhm.
and daughter-in-laws can be very challenging.
Mhm.
Um, the daughter-in-law, I've had some challenges with the daughter-in-law wanting to keep me at a distance, and I've had to just honor that. But you still have the son who you can continue to stay close to
Right.
and try to get access to the grandchildren through that, and just continue to just be kind, but you can't force yourself on anyone.
Exactly.
And the
Mhm.
daughter-in-law may be working through some personal issues that she has,
Mhm.
and it's just more comfortable for her during this season to keep you at a distance.
Mhm.
um, I had some of that too early on, and I tried to push, and
Did you?
pushing does not work. It only creates a bigger gap between you. So my advice would be, don't try to push yourself into a relationship there, but let her find her way back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's similar to what happens, even with stepchildren at times, that when, as a step-parent, we try to push them, it often pushes them away
Yeah.
instead of
Mhm.
bringing them closer to us. And the other thing that I always like to say is pray that God would soften the heart of that person so that they would
Right.
want to have a relationship with you. And I think that can go into play with no matter who it is, that we can pray for that daughter-in-law, for us perhaps to have understanding of what's going on with them in a way that would also help us to know how to relate to them. And just like you said, maybe they do have some difficult circumstances that they're trying to figure out themselves. And so in the process, they just can't bring somebody else in, or somebody who's new to the family. They're just not ready. But it doesn't mean
Right.
that they won't eventually become ready. And just like you said, continue to be kind. I've seen that too, that if we continue to show fruits of the Spirit and live by how the principles of the Bible, then I do believe that oftentimes eventually we can win them over and help them to understand I'm a person that's okay to love, that you can let me in. And I'm
Right.
curious, is that what has happened with you and your daughter-in-law?
Yes, but again, it worked itself out through the grandchildren.
Yes. Okay.
She was able to observe, this lady has embraced my children and she
Yes.
loves them well. Look how she includes them
Right.
and loves them. And maybe I need to give her a chance.
Yes.
And that's all we really want
Mhm.
is a chance
Right.
to be loved and to love others as Christ loved.
Mhm.
And so again, the magic has been through those grandchildren.
Yes. And I do think that that happens more easily sometimes when there is an in-law relationship like that that's a little more tenuous, that the grandkids, they don't see us as in a step relationship. They just see us as a grandparent in my life who loves and cares for me.
Right.
And those are other
Right.
things to think about. All right, here's another question. Our parents aren't engaged with our kids. How can we encourage them to be? Okay, so this is where the parents are not as involved with the grandkids as a parent wants them to be. How do we encourage that? So this is where a parent
Yeah.
is wanting their parents to be more involved and asking, how do we encourage that?
Boy, what would I do there?
Mhm.
You know, I guess just continue to invite them to opportunities that come along, just continue to invite them to join the parents in what they're doing in their activities. Would y'all like to come along with us and engage them more in what the parents are doing? I,
Okay.
I just
Mhm.
don't I just
Mhm.
don't know, Gayla.
Mhm.
I just can't imagine not wanting to be involved. I'm kind of
Yeah.
stumped.
I know. And I think it's okay to have a conversation with them also and just say, we want our kids to know their grandparents. We want our kids to be in relationship with their grandparents and would love to have you be more involved. Sometimes a simple conversation to help them understand that we value you as a grandparent, and
Yes. Yes.
maybe that could be helpful.
Yeah. Communication is big within our family,
Yeah.
and we communicate a lot and we don't let things fester. We try to go ahead and address things and concerns. And I think all of Bob's kids feel like that they could come and just be open and honest
Mm.
and tell us, we'd like to see more of this, or we don't really want y'all doing that much anymore, that type of thing.
Right, and don't get on the defense, just kind of have this open communication of, we want you to feel free to be able to talk to us, and we'll try to accept it in with a humble posture. I think that's part of it in the grandparent role. We're not the parents. We are
Right.
an extra person who loves and cares for these kids, but the parents are the ones responsible for doing the hard work of raising them, disciplining them, all of that stuff that we've already done. We don't need to do that
Right.
again now in the grandparent role.
Well,
And
in our family, we also use comedy, I
yeah,
guess you could call it. And we have something called grandparent probation. And
oh,
we have found ourselves on grandparent probation. We took all 8 of the children up to Helen. I think you and Randy went there.
yes, I have been to Helen. Yes.
Okay. Did you see all the pink rafts where they're going down the hooch on the rafts?
Yes, yes.
So we took all 8 of our grandchildren and were wondering how we were going to go down the river. So we came up with latching all the tubes together. We loaded up all of our 8 grandchildren and we took us all down the river. But when we got home, the parents our house to pick them all up because we come
Okay.
home, then they show up to pick up the kids. And when the door opened and all the parents came in, this is what they heard. Kason fell out of his raft and he cried. It dumped him out. And then Gigi had to dive in and pull Kason up. And Gigi came up. She was crying and Kason was crying. And the parents are saying, "Oh, really?" "Yes." And Big Daddy hugged Gigi and he hugged Kason. And Gigi said to Big Daddy, "We're not ever doing anything like this again." Well, all the parents' eyes, they're getting bigger and bigger. And they're saying, "Can you explain what happened?" And so we stand there and we kind of explain that we made a bad choice.
Okay. Okay.
And we ended up on what they said. They said, "Well, you're going to have to go on grandparent probation. So you're not going to be able to see the children for the next 4 days." And
4 days.
we were put on grandparent probation for making a poor choice. So I think they use humor sometimes to try to get a point across that they were upset by that. They don't want it done again. But now they've kind of called it grandparent probation.
Oh, wow.
So,
And have you been put on grandparent probation again, or was it just at one time?
oh no, we've been on grandparent probation several times, sometimes by choice. We'll say to the grandkids, this is going to result in us being put on grandparent probation, but it's worth it. Let's go. So we'll go.
Oh
But
my
yeah.
goodness, Vicki, that is fun. And that is kind of a non-threatening way, I think, that the parents are kind of saying to y'all, okay, just be careful here. We don't want any accidents. We don't want anything, they're just kind of in a funny way letting you know that we're watching what y'all are doing and our kids are telling us what you're doing.
But Gayla, it scared me out of my mind when he
Yeah,
got swept underneath that tube.
of course.
And he's like 18, and I don't think he's ever been on another tube.
Oh, you're kidding.
So when I share the story laughingly, when the parents were hearing what happened, it was quite dangerous. And
Yeah.
yes, I did come up crying and very upset.
Yeah.
And so, we say, "Oh, we got it. We'll put ourselves on grandparent probation. We will never do anything like that again." But yes. So now we just use that humor of you'll be put on grandparent probation.
And what I also hear, Vicki, you saying is y'all took a humble posture when the kids said, "Okay, listen, you're on grandparent probation." I mean, I think that you recognized and you owned it. You said right up front, "Okay, we made a bad choice here." You didn't you didn't get defensive. You didn't try to hide it or, tell the kids, "Okay, we're going to quit talking about it." I mean, you just had an open, honest conversation. And things like that are going to happen. I mean, there are times that we as the grandparent are going to think differently than maybe the parents would. And when they kind of call us out on it, then we have to be willing to step back and say, "Okay, yes, I won't do that again." But it comes to humility is really is what's happening there.
And we don't keep secrets from the parents.
Yeah.
We never ask the grandchildren to keep secrets. And if we know that something's going to be told that they're not going to like, sometimes we'll even send a text and say, "When you hear about this, we're available to talk about it. Yes, it did happen."
Oh, so you try to be proactive is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. If it's something that you think is going to be concerning, you just let them know ahead of time so that they don't feel like they're in the dark when they hear their children telling them about it.
You're right.
Okay.
Right.
That's a good
Especially if we've had to discipline them, and we don't do that often. We don't need to very often. But if we've had to discipline them in some way, and we don't spank them, but if we've had to discipline or have a hard conversation with them, we'll let the parents know that story's coming home too, and that we'll be happy to talk with them. But communicating is really the glue that holds all of us together, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Oh, goodness. I love that. Well, just briefly, I think you've already told me some, but are there any other just biggest blessings that you've experienced as being Gigi?
You know, when they come to my house, we always have ice cream. We always have yogurt, and that's just something that they know to expect. One of the blessings is when they accept Jesus and
Oh,
they're baptized. Um, I asked when our first grandchild was baptized if we could present him with a Bible, and
okay.
the
Yeah.
parents said yes, and that's turned out to be a real blessing. That
Wow.
all the others have kind of fallen in behind that first one, and they know that when the children accept Jesus and they're baptized, that they let the grandparents give them their Bible. And
It's
so
a
that's been a blessing.
That is a sweet gesture, and what a meaningful way to celebrate with them and help them understand what an important decision they've made. And then there's a ripple effect to that, that the other grandkids are also seeing this. And I'm sure when you have that many grandkids, some homes maybe are handle spiritual things differently than other homes, but you are basically saying this
Right.
is what we want to emphasize and what we want to show as important, and that's a great way to do it. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Before we sign off here, Vicki, is there anything else you would love to say on this subject? Anything you want to add? Anything you'd say you wish you'd done differently? Anything else you want to tell us?
Just staying connected to them. You know, we
Okay.
have now our grandchildren range from 20 to 4. Our youngest is 4, our oldest is 20.
Wow.
So once they got their phones, we were
Mm,
able to communicate a lot with them directly.
okay.
And mainly just keeping that communication going. Just stay in touch, stay
Right.
connected to them, stay involved. Um,
So you don't continue to send mail. Now you text them when they get a phone? Is that what change? Does that change?
oh no, they still get mail.
Oh.
They get a back to school card with a little money in it, and
Oh.
say this may only buy the shoestrings, but here you go.
I
But
love that, Vicki. You're giving me some great ideas. I'm a fairly new grandmother, so I love listening to your ideas and how you love grandchildren well, whether they are your biological or your step. You just have given some great examples of how to handle those situations. Wow. Well,
yeah, I love to send them mail, still do.
well, thank you for joining us, Vicki. And if our viewers wanted to reach out to you, how might they reach you?
Well, on Facebook, we're Bob Vicki Maday on Facebook, and
Okay.
by email, vicky.maday@gmail.com. That's VICKI.maday@gmail.com.
Okay, that's great. And we will put that link in the comments so that our viewers can see that also. And I also want our viewers to know that you have written some devotions specifically for grandparents, step grandparents, and those are going to be a
Mhm.
free download on the Family Life website. And we are putting that together, and we will also have that available in the comments. So thank you for doing that. There's a lot of great just insight in those devotions, Vicki, and we just wanted to be able to share them with our audience. So we appreciate your work on that.
Sure, sure. I sure enjoyed it. God bless you, Gayla.
God bless you. Thanks again for being here with us.
Thank
Ladies, make plans to join us next month, October the 14th, for my conversation with singer-songwriter Laura Story. Laura is one of my favorite artists. She has just a tremendous story of what God taught her through years of uncertainty with her husband's brain tumor and how she learned to trust God in hard circumstances. There's so many things that we can learn from her story that looking forward to that. Also, our annual summit on Step Family Ministry is quickly approaching. We want to equip you as a ministry leader or a counselor to serve blended families in your church or community. Our theme this year is Press On. Mark your calendar for October 23rd through the 24th. This is a live event in Nashville. Rondell and myself, many other speakers will be there. You can find all those details at summitonstepfamilies.com. I want to mention my newest book that officially launched on August the 5th. I've updated my devotional book that I wrote previously. I added some new devotions to it. It's now titled Beautifully Blended, 101 Devotions to Encourage Couples in Blended Families. You can check that out. You'll see a link in the comments for that. Also, just short devos with biblical nuggets and of hope and wisdom to just point you to biblical solutions to the dynamics in blended families. Now, be sure that you're following Family Life Blended on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and have your notifications turned on so that you're notified when we go live. God bless you, ladies. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like more help on grandparenting roles within a blended family, check out the podcast that Ron Deal did with Gordon and Carrie Taylor. That's episode number 39. You will see a link to that also in the comments. And if you're interested in watching other women and blended families live streams, you can find all of them now on our YouTube. We've done 30 different live streams on all kinds of blended family topics, and look for a link to that in the comments. Now, as we conclude, I want us to consider a scripture on love as we seek to build our grandparent and step-grandparent relationships. Romans 12:9-10 says, "Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good, and be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself." I think that's a great reminder for relationship building in step family life. Keep pressing on, ladies. I'll see you next time.